Welcome back to Her True Stories, where we bring you the most jaw-dropping tales of betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimate triumph. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and smash that notification bell because today's story will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about a 68-year-old woman who lost everything in a fire, was abandoned by her own daughter, and then turned the tables in the most spectacular way possible. This is Olivia's story, and honey, you won't believe what this woman did to get her revenge. So grab your tissues and buckle up. This one's going to be a wild ride. My name is Olivia Smith, and at 68 years old, I thought I had seen every kind of heartbreak life could throw at me. I buried my husband of 45 years, watched my health decline, and struggled to make ends meet on a fixed income. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on that cold Tuesday morning in November when my entire world went up in flames. I was sleeping peacefully in my little two-bedroom house on Maple Street, the same house where I'd raised my daughter Rebecca and built a lifetime of memories. The house where my late husband Thomas had carried me over the threshold as a young bride. The house where Rebecca took her first steps, lost her first tooth, and graduated high school with honors. The smoke alarm's shrill scream jolted me awake at 3:47 a.m. I'll never forget that time because I looked at the clock, thinking it was just a malfunction. But when I opened my bedroom door, thick black smoke poured in like a living thing, choking me, burning my lungs. "Help!" I screamed, but my voice was lost in the roar of flames that had already consumed half my home. The fire had started in the kitchen. Later they'd tell me it was faulty wiring, something that could have been prevented if I'd had the money for proper electrical work. But living on Social Security doesn't leave much room for home improvements. I grabbed my purse, my late husband's photo from the nightstand, and stumbled toward the front door. The heat was unbearable, like walking into hell itself. My nightgown caught on something, and I had to rip it free, leaving me in nothing but my undergarments as I stumbled onto the front lawn. The neighbors had already called 911, and within minutes, fire trucks surrounded my street. But it was too late. I watched 43 years of my life disappear into smoke and ash. Every photo, every piece of furniture, every memory gone. The Christmas ornaments Rebecca had made in elementary school, Thomas's fishing trophies, my wedding dress that I'd saved for a granddaughter I never had, all of it reduced to nothing. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" A paramedic wrapped a blanket around my shaking shoulders. I wasn't physically injured, but something inside me had broken that night. Something that I didn't think could ever be repaired. The fire chief, a kind man named Captain Rodriguez, approached me as the flames finally died down. "Mrs. Smith, I'm so sorry. The structure is a total loss. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" That's when it hit me. I had nowhere to go. At 68 years old, I was homeless. "I'll call my daughter," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Rebecca lived just 20 minutes away in a beautiful suburban home with her husband Marcus and their two teenage children, Sarah and Jake. She was a successful real estate agent, driving luxury cars and taking expensive vacations. Surely, she would take in her own mother in my darkest hour. I called her from the paramedic's phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. "Mom? It's 4 in the morning. What's wrong?" Rebecca's voice was groggy but concerned. "Honey, there's been a fire. My house, it's gone. Everything's gone. I need somewhere to stay." "Oh my God, Mom. Are you okay? Are you hurt?" "No, I'm not hurt, but I have nothing left. Can I come stay with you? Just until I figure out what to do." There was a pause. A long, horrible pause that should have warned me what was coming. "Mom, you know our guest room is being renovated right now. And with Sarah's college applications and Jake's basketball season, this just isn't a good time. Maybe you could stay at a hotel for a few days? I'll help you find something affordable." Affordable? My daughter, who lived in a house worth $500,000, was suggesting I stay in a hotel I couldn't afford with money I didn't have. Rebecca, I lost everything. I can't afford a hotel. I'm your mother. I raised you, sacrificed for you, put you through college. I know, Mom, and I'm grateful. But you have to understand, our house is chaos right now. It wouldn't be comfortable for you anyway. Why don't you call your friend Dorothy? Or maybe there's a shelter. A shelter. My own daughter was suggesting I stay in a homeless shelter. Please, Rebecca. I'm begging you. I have nowhere else to go. Mom, you're being dramatic. This is temporary. You'll get insurance money and you'll rebuild. But right now, I just can't take you in. I'm sorry. The line went dead. My daughter, my only child, the baby I'd nursed through fevers and heartbreaks, the girl I'd worked 2 jobs to put through college, had hung up on me. I stood there in my neighbor's driveway, wrapped in a Red Cross blanket, watching the last embers of my life smolder in the darkness. The paramedic was watching me with pity in his eyes. Ma'am, is there someone else you can call?
Dorothy.
My best friend since high school. If anyone would help me, it would be Dorothy. Dorothy, it's Olivia. I'm so sorry to wake you, but my house burned down tonight. I have nowhere to go. Can I? Say no more, Dorothy interrupted. Get in whatever car will bring you here. You're staying with me for as long as you need. That's the difference between real family and blood family. Dorothy didn't ask questions, didn't make excuses, didn't hesitate. She just opened her door. But as I rode in the back of Captain Rodriguez's car to Dorothy's house, something dark and bitter was growing in my chest. Rebecca's words echoed in my mind. You're being dramatic. This isn't a good time. Maybe there's a shelter. My daughter had abandoned me when I needed her most. She had shown me exactly what I meant to her, which was nothing. I made a vow that night, sitting in Dorothy's guest room, still smelling like smoke and wearing borrowed clothes. I vowed that if I ever got back on my feet, if I ever had the power to choose whether to help my daughter, I would remember this moment. I would remember how she threw me away like garbage when I had nothing. What I didn't know then was that life was about to give me that power in ways I never could have imagined. The next morning, Dorothy made me coffee and toast, and we sat at her kitchen table going through my options. The insurance adjuster wouldn't come out for 3 days. I had maybe $500 in my checking account and nowhere to live except Dorothy's guest room. You can stay here as long as you need, Dorothy assured me. We've been friends for 50 years. You do the same for me. Had I? Yes, without question. But apparently my daughter didn't operate by the same moral code.
My phone rang.
Rebecca. Mom, I've been thinking about last night. I want to help you. I found a nice extended stay hotel about 30 minutes from here. They have weekly rates, and I can cover the first week. 1 week. My daughter was offering to help me for 1 week. What about after that week, Rebecca? Well, hopefully, your insurance will have come through by then. Or maybe you can apply for some kind of assistance. There are programs for seniors in situations like this. Programs for seniors. Government assistance. My daughter wanted me to become a charity case rather than let me stay in her beautiful home with 4 bedrooms. I see, I said quietly. I'm not trying to be difficult, Mom. It's just that our lives are really complicated right now. Sarah's applying to Princeton, and we need to focus on her essays and applications. Jake has playoffs coming up. Marcus is under a lot of pressure at work. Adding another person to the house would just create stress for everyone. Stress. I would create stress for my own family. Don't worry about it, Rebecca. I'll figure something out.
See?
I knew you'd understand. You're such a strong woman, Mom. You'll get through this. Strong. That's what people call you when they don't want to help you, but need to feel better about themselves. After I hung up, Dorothy looked at me with fire in her eyes. That girl ought to be ashamed of herself. After everything you did for her, Dorothy was right. I had sacrificed everything for Rebecca. When her father died of a heart attack when she was only 16, I worked 2 jobs to keep our house and pay for her college. I cleaned offices at night and worked at a department store during the day, coming home exhausted just to help her with homework and make sure she had everything she needed. When she wanted to go to an expensive private college, I took out loans I was still paying off at 68. When she needed a car, I gave her mine and walked to work for 6 months until I could afford another one. When she got married, I spent my entire savings on her wedding, giving her the fairy tale day she dreamed of. And this was how she repaid me. But Dorothy was wrong about one thing. I wasn't ashamed. I was angry. Angrier than I'd ever been in my life. That anger was about to become my greatest weapon. For 2 weeks, I lived in Dorothy's guest room, sleeping on sheets that smelled like lavender and eating meals prepared by hands that weren't obligated to feed me, but chose to anyway. Dorothy never once complained, never made me feel like a burden, never suggested I was overstaying my welcome. Rebecca called twice during those 2 weeks. Once to ask if I'd heard from the insurance company yet, and once to tell me about Sarah's acceptance to Princeton, as if I should be celebrating while I was homeless. "Isn't it wonderful, Mom? She got in early admission. We're so proud." "That's nice, dear. You don't sound very excited." How could I explain that it's hard to be excited about your granddaughter's college acceptance when you're wearing the same 3 outfits donated by your friend's church because everything you own turned to ash? "I'm just tired, Rebecca." "Well, maybe when you get settled, we can have a celebration dinner. Sarah would love to see you." When I get settled. As if that was something happening independently of her, something she had no control over. The insurance adjuster finally came, and the news was devastating. The house was indeed a total loss, but the payout would be much smaller than I'd hoped. After paying off the remaining mortgage, something I'd been slowly chipping away at for the past 5 years since Thomas died, I'd have maybe $40,000 left. Enough for a down payment on a modest apartment, but not enough to rebuild my life. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith," the adjuster said, reviewing his paperwork. The policy was pretty basic. It covers structure and some contents, but not replacement value on your personal belongings.
$42,000.
That's what 43 years of building a home was worth. I was sitting in Dorothy's living room, staring at the insurance check, when everything changed. Dorothy burst through the front door with an expression I'd never seen before, pure excitement mixed with disbelief. "Olivia, you need to see this right now." She thrust her phone at me, and I found myself looking at a GoFundMe page. The title read, "Help Olivia Smith Rebuild After Devastating House Fire." "Dorothy, what is this?" "Keep reading." I scrolled down and saw my story, my real story, not the sanitized version Rebecca would have told. It talked about how I was a 68-year-old widow who'd lost everything in a fire, how I'd worked 2 jobs to put my daughter through college, how I'd been turned away by family in my darkest hour and was relying on the kindness of friends. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part was the number at the top of the page, $47,382 raised in just 3 days. "Dorothy, who did this?" "Your neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She saw what happened, and she was so moved by your story that she started this fundraiser." "But Olivia, that's not even the best part. Keep scrolling." I scrolled down to the comments section, and my eyes filled with tears. "This breaks my heart. No senior should have to go through this alone." $500 donation. "I'm a teacher, and I can only give $50, but I want this woman to know she's not forgotten." $50 donation. "My grandmother went through something similar. Family isn't always blood." $200 donation. "This reminds me of my own mother. I wish I could give more." $1,000 donation. But then I saw a comment that made my heart stop. "Mrs. Smith, you don't know me, but I know your story. I lost my own mother last year, and reading about how your daughter treated you breaks my heart. I'm donating $25,000 because every mother deserves better. You're not alone. Anonymous donation. $25,000 from a complete stranger. Dorothy, this can't be real. It's real, honey. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. It's been shared hundreds of times on Facebook. People are angry about how Rebecca treated you, and they want to help. Over the next few days, the donations kept pouring in. Local news stations picked up the story. The anchor on Channel 7 News told my story with tears in her eyes, showing the burned-out shell of my house and talking about how family had failed me but community had stepped up. That's when my phone started ringing. Mom, I just saw the news story. I had no idea you were on some fundraising website. This is so embarrassing. Embarrassing. Not that I'd been homeless, but that people knew about it. I didn't ask for this, Rebecca. I know, but it makes our family look bad. Like we don't take care of our own. I've had 3 people ask me why you're not staying with us. And what did you tell them? I explained that you chose to stay with your friend because you're independent. But Mom, you need to shut this down. It's making me look like a terrible daughter. Making her look like a terrible daughter. Not making her feel like one, just making her look like one. I can't shut it down. Mrs. Chen started it. Then ask her to shut it down. This is humiliating. For who? For me, who had lost everything. Or for her, who was being revealed as the selfish daughter she really was. I'm not shutting down the only help I'm getting. Help? Mom, you're getting charity. You're making yourself look like a beggar on the internet. What choice do I have? You certainly haven't offered any alternatives. That's not fair. You know our situation is complicated right now. Your situation is always complicated when it comes to helping me, isn't it? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. I think you're being very ungrateful right now. I offered to help with a hotel. For 1 week. It was a start. It was an insult. I hung up on her. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my daughter. And then something amazing happened. The GoFundMe page exploded. The local news story had been picked up by a national news network. A reporter named Jessica Martinez did a feature story called "When Family Fails, a Community Steps Up." The story went viral on social media. Donations poured in from across the country. Messages of support came from mothers who'd been abandoned by their children, from children who were ashamed of how their siblings treated their parents, from complete strangers who were moved by my story. But the call that changed everything came on a Thursday afternoon. Mrs. Smith? This is Robert Henderson from Henderson Media Group. I saw your story on the news, and I'd like to help you in a very significant way. Henderson Media Group. I'd heard the name. They owned several local businesses, and were known for their philanthropy. That's very kind, Mr. Henderson, but I don't need. Mrs. Smith, please let me finish. I lost my own mother 2 years ago. She spent her last years feeling forgotten by some of her children who were too busy with their own lives to spend time with her. Your story hit me very hard. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. Here's what I'd like to do. I want to donate enough money to your fund to make it exactly $2 million. I nearly dropped the phone. I'm sorry, what? $2 million. I want you to be able to rebuild your life completely, to know that you're valued and appreciated, even if your own family doesn't see it. Mr. Henderson, I can't accept that much money. Yes, you can. And you will. Because I'm going to attach one condition to this donation. My heart sank. There was always a catch. What condition? That you promise me you'll use this money to build a life that makes you happy. Not a life that makes your daughter happy. Not a life that meets other people's expectations. A life that brings you joy. Can you promise me that? Through my tears, I managed to whisper, yes. Good. The donation will be processed today. Mrs. Smith. Yes. You deserve better than what you've been given. I hope this helps you remember that. When I hung up the phone, Dorothy was staring at me with her mouth open. Olivia, what just happened? I think I just became a millionaire. That evening, the GoFundMe page showed $2,087,453 raised for Help Olivia Smith Rebuild After Devastating House Fire. $2 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. Enough to do anything I wanted, go anywhere I wanted, be anyone I wanted. And the first thing I wanted to do was make sure my daughter understood exactly what she'd lost when she turned her back on me.
My phone rang.
Rebecca, of course. Mom, people are calling me about some massive donation. Please tell me this isn't real. It's real. $2 million? That's insane. You can't accept that much money from strangers. Why not? Because it's not right. It's taking advantage of people's sympathy. Is it? Or is it people recognizing that I deserve better than what my own family gave me? Mom, you're talking crazy. Of course we love you. Just because we couldn't take you in right away doesn't mean we don't care. Couldn't or wouldn't? There's a difference between wanting to help and being able to help. Is there? Because these strangers who don't even know me found a way to help. That's different.
How?
Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do with all that money? And that's when I realized she was worried. Not about me, not about my well-being, but about what having financial independence might mean for her. As long as I was poor and desperate, she had the power in our relationship. She could help me or not help me as it suited her convenience. But now I had power, and power changes everything. I'm going to build a new life, I said simply. Here? In town? Maybe. Maybe not. What do you mean maybe not? You can't just leave. What about Sarah and Jake?
What about me?
What about her? The woman who'd left me homeless and suggested I stay in a shelter? I'll have to think about what's best for me now. Mom, you're scaring me. You're talking like you're going to disappear. I'm talking like I'm going to live my life on my own terms for the first time in decades. After I hung up, Dorothy looked at me with a mixture of pride and concern. Olivia, honey, that girl is going to come crawling back now that you have money. I know. What are you going to do? I smiled for the first time since the fire. I'm going to let her. The transformation in Rebecca's behavior was immediate and nauseating. Within 24 hours of the news breaking about the $2 million donation, my daughter went from suggesting I stay in homeless shelters to calling me 3 times a day with urgent invitations. Mom, I feel terrible about the misunderstanding last week. Of course you should come stay with us. We've cleared out the guest room completely. It's all ready for you. Misunderstanding. That's what she was calling it now. Thank you, Rebecca, but I'm comfortable at Dorothy's. But Mom, you can't stay there forever. You need to be with family. The kids miss you so much. Sarah keeps asking when Grandma Olivia is coming to visit. Sarah keeps asking. The same Sarah who hadn't called me once since the fire, even after her mother told her I was homeless. That's sweet of her. So you'll come? Tonight? I can pick you up right now. The desperation in her voice was almost comical. This was the same woman who, just 2 weeks ago, told me our house was chaos and it wouldn't be comfortable for me. I appreciate the offer, but I'm still deciding what to do next. What do you mean, deciding? Mom, you have to let us help you now. We're family. Now we're family. Funny how that worked. Over the next few days, Rebecca's campaign intensified. She showed up at Dorothy's house with flowers. She sent me links to articles about how families heal after tragedy. She even had Marcus call me. Olivia, Rebecca is beside herself with worry about you. She feels like there was some kind of miscommunication, and she wants to make it right. Miscommunication. As if maybe there's a shelter could be misinterpreted as anything other than rejection. Marcus, I appreciate your concern, but look, I know my wife can be particular sometimes. She gets overwhelmed when everything isn't perfect. But she loves you, and she wants you to come home with us. Home. Rebecca's house had never been my home. She'd made that crystal clear. I'm fine where I am. But think about Sarah and Jake. They need their grandmother. And Rebecca needs her mother. Now she needs her mother. When I was broke and homeless, she needed space. Now that I had $2 million, she suddenly needed me. The phone calls escalated to visits. Rebecca started showing up at Dorothy's house every day, sometimes twice a day. Mom, I don't understand why you're being so stubborn. I've apologized for the confusion. Confusion. Not for abandoning me. Not for suggesting I stay in a shelter. Not for hanging up on me when I begged for help. Just for the confusion. Have you apologized? Because I don't remember hearing the words, I'm sorry. I've explained that we had a miscommunication. Say the words, Rebecca. Say, I'm sorry I turned you away when you lost everything. She looked uncomfortable. Mom, let's not dwell on the past. What matters is moving forward. The past was 2 weeks ago. And we're past that now. What matters is that you come stay with us so we can take care of you.
Take care of me.
The woman who'd suggested I apply for government assistance now wanted to take care of me. What's changed, Rebecca? What do you mean? 2 weeks ago, you said it wasn't a good time, that your house was chaos, that I should find a hotel or a shelter. What's different now? She fidgeted with her designer handbag, the kind that cost more than I used to make in a month. I've had time to think about it. I realize I was hasty. Hasty.
Yes.
I was overwhelmed by the situation, and I didn't handle it well. And this has nothing to do with the money. What money? The $2 million, Rebecca. Her face flushed red. How can you even say that? I'm your daughter. I love you regardless of money. Do you? Of course I do. Then why weren't you here when I had nothing? I told you it was complicated. But it's not complicated now. No, it's not. Why? She was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence, I had my answer. I think you should go, Rebecca. Mom, please. Let me make this right. You can't. Yes, I can. Come stay with us. Let us spoil you. Let us show you how much we love you. Where was this love 2 weeks ago? I made a mistake. Finally. A crack in her perfect facade. Yes, you did. A mistake that showed me exactly where I stand with you. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Real tears. Or at least tears that looked real.
Mom, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I was scared and overwhelmed, and I handled everything wrong. Please forgive me. There they were. The words I'd wanted to hear. But they came too late, and for the wrong reasons. I do forgive you, Rebecca. Hope bloomed in her eyes. But I'll never forget. The hope died. What does that mean? It means I know who you really are now. I know what you think of me when the chips are down. I know where I rank in your priorities. That's not fair. Isn't it? When I was homeless and desperate, I was an inconvenience. Now that I have money, I'm family again. If that's not telling, I don't know what is. She stood up, anger replacing the fake tears.
Fine.
Be stubborn. But don't expect me to keep begging. I try to make things right. By offering to let me stay in the house you previously said was too chaotic for me. I was trying to help. Now you were. 2 weeks ago, you were trying to get rid of me. She stormed out, slamming Dorothy's front door behind her. Dorothy, who'd been listening from the kitchen, came out with a satisfied smile. Good for you. Was I too harsh? Harsh? Honey, you were too kind. That girl showed her true colors, and now she's mad that you noticed. But Rebecca wasn't done. If anything, my refusal to fall for her sudden change of heart only made her more determined. The next day, she arrived with reinforcements, Sarah and Jake. My heart broke a little seeing my grandchildren. Sarah was 18 now, beautiful and poised, ready for college. Jake was 16, tall and lanky, with his grandfather's eyes. I loved them dearly, and Rebecca knew it. Grandma Olivia. Jake ran to me and hugged me tight. Mom told us about the fire. Are you okay? Sweet Jake. Honest and direct, the way teenagers can be.
Ai fine, sweetheart.
Mom said you might move away. You can't move away. Who's going to come to my basketball games? Sarah hung back, more reserved, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Grandma, Mom says you're upset with us. I'm not upset with you kids. Never with you. But you're upset with Mom? Smart Sarah. She always could read a room. Your mother and I have some things to work out. Rebecca stepped forward, using her children as shields. See, Mom? The kids need you. They don't understand why you won't come stay with us. Because Grandma's not stupid, Jake said, surprising everyone. Are you, Grandma? Jake. Rebecca snapped. That's not appropriate. Why not? You think Grandma doesn't know you only want her around now because she's rich? Out of the mouths of babes. That's enough, Rebecca said sharply. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? Jake looked at his mother with disappointment that was painful to watch. Grandma's house burned down, and you told her she couldn't stay with us. Now she has money, and suddenly we have room. I'm 16, not 6. I can do math. Sarah looked horrified. Mom, is that true? You didn't let Grandma stay with us? Rebecca's face was crimson. It's more complicated than that.
How?
Sarah demanded. How is it complicated to help your own mother? You kids don't understand. No, Mom, Sarah interrupted, and I never heard her speak to her mother that way. I think we understand perfectly. She turned to me with tears in her eyes. Grandma, I'm so sorry. If I'd known, I would have said something. I would have made her. It's not your responsibility, sweetheart. But it is. Sarah was crying now. She's my mother, which means how she treats you reflects on all of us. And I'm ashamed. Rebecca looked like she'd been slapped. Sarah, that's not fair. Isn't it? Grandma Olivia put you through college. She gave you everything. And when she needed help, you turned her away. That's not the person you raised me to be. Jake nodded in agreement. It's pretty messed up, Mom. I was trying to protect our family's stability. By throwing away Grandma? Jake shook his head. That's not protection. That's just mean. Rebecca was losing control of the narrative she'd tried to create. Her own children were seeing through her excuses. Fine, she said, her voice cold. Everyone thinks I'm a terrible daughter. Is that what you want to hear? We want to hear the truth, Sarah said quietly. The truth. Rebecca's kryptonite. The truth is that I made a mistake. The truth is that I was overwhelmed and scared and I handled things badly. The truth is that I'm trying to make it right, but your grandmother won't let me. Some mistakes can't be fixed, I said gently. That's not true, Rebecca said desperately. Any mistake can be fixed if people are willing to forgive. I've forgiven you. Then come home with us. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It doesn't mean putting myself in a position to be hurt the same way again. Sarah looked at me with her wise 18-year-old eyes. You don't trust her anymore.
No, sweetheart.
I don't. Because of the money, Jake said. It wasn't a question. The money changed everything. It showed me that your mother's love comes with conditions. Rebecca was crying now, ugly tears that smeared her makeup. That's not true. I love you no matter what.
Do you?
Then why didn't you love me enough to help me when I had nothing? She had no answer for that. Because there was no answer that didn't make her look exactly like what she was, a selfish woman who only cared about family when it was convenient. The kids hugged me goodbye, both of them apologizing for their mother's behavior. After they left, Sarah texted me, I'm sorry, Grandma. She's wrong, and I know it. You deserve better. Even my own grandchildren could see what Rebecca couldn't or wouldn't admit. But Rebecca's campaign wasn't over. If anything, being called out by her own children only made her more desperate. And desperate people do foolish things. After the disastrous visit with the kids, Rebecca's approach changed dramatically. If guilt and family obligation weren't going to work, she'd try a different tactic, making herself the victim. It started with a Facebook post that made my blood boil. Going through a difficult time with family right now. Sometimes when people come into money, it changes them. All I want is to help my mother, but she's pushing everyone away. Please pray for our family during this challenging time. Broken heart #family #prayer #hurt. Within hours, the post had dozens of comments from Rebecca's friends and acquaintances. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Money really does change people. Your mother is lucky to have such a caring daughter. Some people don't know how good they have it. Rebecca was painting herself as the long-suffering daughter trying to help an ungrateful mother who'd been corrupted by sudden wealth. It was masterfully manipulative and completely false. Dorothy showed me the post on her phone, her face red with fury. That little witch. How dare she twist this around? But I wasn't angry. I was impressed in a sick way. Rebecca had taken a situation where she was clearly the villain and somehow made herself the victim. It was actually brilliant. She's good, I said calmly. Good? Olivia, she's lying about you on the internet. Yes, she is. And everyone believes her because it fits their preconceptions about money corrupting people. Aren't you going to defend yourself?
No.
Why not? Because defending yourself against a lie often makes you look guilty. And because I have a better plan. The Facebook post was just the beginning. Rebecca launched a full-scale social media campaign designed to make me look like a cruel, money-obsessed woman who was punishing her loving family. She posted old photos of us together with captions like, "Missing better times with my mom. Money changed everything. Crying face #heartbroken #family." She shared articles about lottery winners who became estranged from their families, adding comments like, "This is exactly what I'm living through right now." She even posted a photo of Sarah and Jake looking sad with the caption, "When your kids ask why grandma won't come to family dinners anymore and you don't know what to tell them. Broken heart." The manipulation was breathtaking in its scope and audacity. Rebecca was rewriting history in real time, turning herself into the victim of my supposed greed and cruelty. But the post that really pushed me over the edge was the one where she shared a stock photo of an elderly woman sitting alone and wrote, "Worried about my mom isolating herself. Sometimes wealth can make people paranoid and distrustful. Praying she remembers that family love isn't about money." Folded hands. That's when I decided Rebecca needed to learn a lesson about consequences. I called Robert Henderson, the businessman who donated the bulk of my money. We'd stayed in touch since his generous gift, and he'd become something of a mentor to me. "Mrs. Smith, how are you settling in with your new circumstances?" "Actually, Mr. Henderson, I'm having some family issues that I think you should know about." I told him about Rebecca's social media campaign, her attempts to manipulate the narrative, and her sudden interest in being a loving daughter now that I had money. "I'm sorry you're dealing with this," he said. "Unfortunately, money often reveals people's true character. It certainly has in this case. Mr. Henderson, you told me to use this money to build a life that makes me happy. I want to do something that might seem vindictive, but I think it's necessary." "What did you have in mind?" "I want to set up a charitable foundation, something that helps other seniors who've been abandoned by their families. And I want to be very public about it." "That's a wonderful idea. What would you call it?" "The Second Family Foundation. For seniors who need to find their real family after their blood family fails them." "I love it. And I assume you'd want this to get media attention?" "Extensive media attention." I want people to know that the money they donated to help me isn't sitting in my bank account. It's being used to help other people in similar situations. And if this makes your daughter look even worse, that's not my intention. I lied smoothly. But if it's a side effect, I can live with it. Within a week, Robert had helped me set up the foundation and arranged for a press conference to announce it. The local news stations ate it up. The story of a woman who'd been abandoned by her family and was now using donated money to help other abandoned seniors. The reporter, Jessica Martinez, who'd originally covered my story, interviewed me for the announcement. Mrs. Smith, tell us about this foundation. Well, Jessica, after everything I've been through, I realize there are many seniors out there who've been forgotten or abandoned by their families. The Second Family Foundation will provide emergency housing, financial assistance, and emotional support to seniors who find themselves alone. This is incredibly generous. You're using money that was donated to help you rebuild your life to help others instead. The money was given to me with love by strangers who cared more about my well-being than my own family did. It seems only right to pass that love forward. Speaking of family, how are things with your daughter? I paused for effect, looking sad but dignified. I've learned that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes your real family is the people who show up when you need them most. The people who donated to my GoFundMe, who sent me messages of support, who cared about a stranger's well-being. Those people are my family now. And your biological daughter? I hope she finds peace. I hope she learns that love isn't something you can turn on and off based on convenience. But I've moved on. I'm building a new life with people who actually care about me. The interview was devastating in its quiet dignity. I didn't attack Rebecca directly, but the implication was clear. My biological daughter had failed me, so I'd found a new family. The story went viral again. But this time, the narrative was completely different. Instead of an elderly woman made bitter by money, I was portrayed as a saint who was using her windfall to help others despite being mistreated by her own family. The comments on the news story's Facebook post were brutal. This woman is a saint. Her daughter should be ashamed of herself. Imagine abandoning your mother and then getting mad when she finds better people to call family. I hope her daughter sees this and realizes what she's lost. This is what a real Christian looks like, turning pain into purpose. Rebecca's phone started ringing. Friends who'd seen the news story, colleagues from her real estate office, neighbors who recognized our last name. Everyone wanted to know why this sweet old lady on TV wasn't speaking to her daughter. Rebecca called me in a panic. Mom, what have you done? I've started a charity foundation. I thought you'd be proud. You made me look terrible on TV. I didn't mention you at all. You didn't have to. Everyone knows you're talking about me when you say your family abandoned you. Did they? I was talking about my experience. If people are drawing conclusions about you, maybe that says something about your behavior. This is sabotage. This is me building a life that makes me happy, which is exactly what I promised Mr. Henderson I'd do. By destroying my reputation, your reputation is destroying itself. I'm just living my life. People are calling me at work, Mom. They're asking why I don't support my mother. My boss wants to know if I'm the daughter who abandoned you. And what are you telling them? I'm trying to explain that it's not what it looks like. What does it look like? Like I'm a terrible daughter? Are you? The silence stretched between us. I want you to do another interview, Rebecca finally said. I want you to tell them that we've reconciled, that I'm a good daughter, that this was all a misunderstanding. But it wasn't a misunderstanding, and we haven't reconciled. Mom, please. You're ruining my life. I'm living my life. If that ruins yours, that's not my problem.
Fine.
Then I'll do my own interview. I'll tell my side of the story. Good luck with that. What's that supposed to mean? It means that the truth has a way of coming out. If you want to go on television and explain why you suggested your homeless mother stay in a shelter, be my guest. She hung up on me. The next day, Rebecca appeared on a local morning show. I watched with Dorothy eating popcorn like we were at the movies. Rebecca, people are saying you abandoned your mother when she needed you most. What's your side of the story? Rebecca looked polished and professional, her media training from her real estate career serving her well. That's simply not true, Karen. My mother is going through a difficult time, and sometimes when people experience trauma, they don't remember things clearly. The host raised an eyebrow. Are you saying your mother is lying? I'm saying she's confused. The night of the fire was chaotic for everyone. We offered to help her, but she chose to stay with a friend instead. You offered to help her how? We offered to pay for a hotel room while she got back on her feet. Even on television, even with a friendly interviewer, Rebecca couldn't help but reveal her true nature. A hotel room. And then what? Well, we assumed her insurance would cover rebuilding. But it didn't, did it? The insurance payout was much smaller than expected. Rebecca looked flustered. We didn't know that at the time. So, your plan was to put your 68-year-old mother in a hotel and hope for the best. It was temporary assistance while we figured out a long-term solution. What long-term solution did you have in mind? Rebecca fumbled for an answer. There are programs for seniors in situations like this. Government programs? You wanted your mother to apply for welfare rather than stay in your home. It's not that simple. It seems pretty simple to me. Your mother lost everything in a fire, and you offered her a hotel room instead of a place in your family's home. Is that accurate? You're taking it out of context. What context makes that acceptable? Rebecca was drowning on live television, and it was beautiful to watch. Look, we have a busy household. My daughter is applying to colleges, my son has sports, my husband works long hours. Adding another person to the mix would have been stressful for everyone. More stressful than being homeless? That's not fair. What's not fair is a daughter abandoning her mother. Rebecca, your mother is now using her donated money to help other seniors who've been abandoned by their families. How does that make you feel? I think it's wonderful that she wants to help people. People like herself. People whose families failed them. My family didn't fail her. Didn't you? She was homeless, and you offered her a hotel room. She's now helping other homeless seniors because she knows what it feels like to be abandoned. If that's not failure, what is? Rebecca looked like she was going to cry. I made mistakes. I was overwhelmed, and I didn't handle the situation perfectly. But I love my mother, and I want to make things right. Have you apologized to her? Yes, of course. And she won't forgive me. Actually, she said in her interview that she has forgiven you, but she's chosen to build a new life with people who actually support her. There's a difference between forgiveness and trust, isn't there? I suppose. So the real question is, why should she trust you again? What have you done to prove that you've changed? Rebecca had no answer for that. Because she hadn't changed. She was still the same selfish woman who'd abandoned me. She just wanted to look good on television. The interview was a disaster for Rebecca. The comments on the news station's Facebook page were even more brutal than before. She's trying to spin this, but she basically admitted she put her convenience over her mother's welfare. It would have been stressful. More stressful than being homeless? This woman has no shame. She's trying to blame her mother for not remembering things clearly. Disgusting. I hope her kids see this and realize what kind of person their mother really is. That last comment turned out to be prophetic. Sarah called me the morning after Rebecca's disastrous television interview. She was crying. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe Mom went on TV and said those things. What things, sweetheart? She basically admitted that she didn't want you staying with us because it would be stressful. She tried to make it sound like you were confused or lying. It was horrible. I'm sorry you had to see that. No, I'm glad I saw it. I needed to see who my mother really is. Grandma, I want you to know that Jake and I are on your side. What she did was wrong, and we don't support it. You don't need to choose sides, Sarah. Yes, I do. Because if I don't, it means I'm okay with how she treated you. And I'm not okay with it. That afternoon, Sarah did something that shocked everyone. She posted her own Facebook status. I need to say something publicly because my mother just went on television and tried to justify the unjustifiable. My grandmother lost everything in a fire, and my mother turned her away. Not because we didn't have room, we have 4 bedrooms. Not because we couldn't afford it, my parents make plenty of money. But because it would be stressful to help her own mother. I'm 18 years old, and even I know that's wrong. I'm proud of my grandmother for using her money to help other people who've been abandoned by their families because she knows exactly how that feels. Mom, if you're reading this, you should be ashamed of yourself. And you should stop trying to make yourself the victim in a situation where you were clearly the villain. Hashtag proud of my grandma. Hashtag family means more than convenience. The post was shared hundreds of times within hours. Rebecca's own daughter had publicly called her out for her behavior, and the internet loved it. Jake, not to be outdone by his sister, posted his own message. My grandma's house burned down, and my mom said she couldn't stay with us because it would mess up our routine. Then my grandma got money from nice people, and suddenly mom wants to be close again. I'm 16, not stupid. I know what this looks like. I love my mom, but she was wrong. And now she's trying to make grandma look bad instead of admitting she messed up. That's not cool. Hashtag Grandma Olivia. Hashtag do the right thing. Rebecca was being publicly humiliated by her own children. Her parenting, her character, her values, everything was being questioned by the people who knew her best. She called me in hysterics. Mom, you have to make them stop. Sarah and Jake are destroying me on social media. I didn't tell them to post anything. But you're not telling them to stop. They're not children, Rebecca. Sarah is 18, Jake is 16. They can form their own opinions about right and wrong. They're being influenced by you. They're being influenced by your behavior. They saw how you treated me, and they're ashamed of you. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. Being abandoned by your daughter when you're homeless isn't fair either. I've apologized 100 times. You've made excuses 100 times. You've explained 100 times. You've justified 100 times. But you've never actually taken responsibility for your choices. What do you want me to say? I want you to say, Mom, I was selfish. I put my convenience over your welfare. I abandoned you when you needed me most because helping you would have been inconvenient. I am a bad daughter, and I don't deserve your forgiveness.
Can you say that?
Silence. That's what I thought. You're asking me to humiliate myself. I'm asking you to tell the truth.
Fine.
I was selfish. Is that what you want to hear? Do you mean it? Yes. Then why did you go on television and try to make me look like I was confused and lying? More silence. Because you're not actually sorry, Rebecca. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry people know what you did. You're sorry there are consequences. But you're not sorry for what you did. That's not true. Prove it.
How?
Figure it out. You're a smart woman. Figure out how to prove that you're actually sorry instead of just embarrassed. I hung up and turned to Dorothy, who was applauding from the kitchen. Lord have mercy. You are handling this perfectly. Am I being too hard on her? Honey, that girl left you homeless and then tried to make you look bad on television when people called her out for it. You're not being hard enough. But Rebecca's humiliation was just beginning. The local news decided to do a follow-up story about the family drama, and they interviewed several people who knew us. Mrs. Chun, my neighbor who'd started the GoFundMe, was particularly damning. I was there the night of the fire. I saw Olivia standing in my driveway in her nightgown at 4 a.m, calling her daughter for help. I heard her begging, literally begging, for a place to stay. And I heard that daughter suggest she try a homeless shelter. What kind of person does that to their own mother? Dorothy was interviewed too. Olivia raised that girl by herself after her husband died, worked 2 jobs to put her through college. And when Olivia needed help, where was Rebecca? Too busy with her perfect life to care about the woman who gave her everything. But the most devastating interview was with Captain Rodriguez, the fire chief. I've been doing this job for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like it. This elderly lady had lost everything, and her own daughter wouldn't take her in. I offered to drive her to a shelter, and she was so humiliated she could barely speak. No parent should have to go through that. The story painted Rebecca as a monster and me as a saint. Rebecca's real estate business started losing clients. Parents at Jake's school started whispering. Sarah's friends' parents were asking pointed questions. Rebecca was discovering that actions have consequences, and some consequences can't be managed or spun or explained away. She made one last desperate attempt to control the narrative. She organized what she called a family intervention, bringing Marcus, Sarah, and Jake to Dorothy's house for a confrontation. "Mom, this has to stop," she said the moment Dorothy let them in. "The whole town is talking about us. My business is suffering. The kids are being asked questions at school. You're destroying our family." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm just living my life." "By making me look like a villain." "Are you a villain?" "Then how am I making you look like something you're not?" Marcus stepped forward, trying to play peacemaker. "Olivia, I think what Rebecca is trying to say is that maybe it's time to move past this. What's done is done. Can't we focus on healing and moving forward?" "What does moving forward look like, Marcus?" "Well, you could come stay with us. We could be a family again." "And in exchange?" "In exchange for what?" "What do you want me to do in exchange for being allowed back into the family that rejected me?" Rebecca couldn't help herself. "We want you to stop making us look bad." There it was. The truth she'd been dancing around for weeks. "So, if I come live with you, I have to stop talking about how you treated me?" "You have to stop dwelling on the past," Marcus said carefully. "The past that happened 3 weeks ago." "Yes. And if I don't agree to pretend it never happened, then we can't have a relationship," Rebecca said, her true colors showing. "I won't have my family destroyed by your bitterness." Sarah looked horrified. "Mom, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that if Grandma wants to be part of this family, she needs to act like family. That means supporting us, not tearing us down." "Supporting you like you supported her when she was homeless?" Jake asked quietly. "That's different."
How?
Rebecca didn't have an answer. I stood up, suddenly feeling very tired. "I think you should all go." "Mom," Rebecca started.
No.
"You've made your position clear. You'll welcome me back into the family if I agree to pretend you didn't abandon me. If I agree to keep quiet about your behavior. If I agree to be grateful for scraps after you denied me a place at the table." "That's not what we're saying." "That's exactly what you're saying. You want me to come home and keep my mouth shut so you can feel better about yourselves." Sarah was crying now. "Grandma, that's not what I want." "I know, sweetheart, but that's what your mother wants." I looked at Rebecca with something that might have been pity. "You still don't get it, do you? You think this is about money or pride or holding grudges. But it's not. It's about character. When someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them. You showed me who you are that night when I called you for help. Everything since then has just been confirmation." "So that's it?" Rebecca asked. "You're cutting us off forever?" "I'm not cutting you off. I'm just not pretending anymore. I'm not pretending that what you did was okay. I'm not pretending that your apologies are sincere. I'm not pretending that you've changed. But the kids are welcome in my life anytime they want. They're not responsible for your choices." Sarah hugged me tight. "I love you, Grandma." And I'm proud of you. Jake hugged me too. You're the strongest person I know. After they left, Marcus lingered at the door. Olivia, I hope you know that not all of us agreed with Rebecca's decision that night. But you didn't stop her either. He looked ashamed.
No, I didn't.
Then you're just as responsible. I know. And I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't change anything, Marcus. But at least you're honest about it. That night, Sarah texted me, I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself. Mom is wrong, and I hope someday she realizes it. I love you. Jake texted, You're my hero, Grandma. Don't let Mom make you feel bad for having standards. Even my own grandchildren could see what Rebecca couldn't, that some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired. And some daughters don't deserve forgiveness just because they share your DNA. After the failed family intervention, Rebecca's desperation reached new heights. She'd lost control of the narrative, been publicly called out by her own children, and was facing social and professional consequences for her behavior. But instead of genuinely reflecting on her actions, she doubled down on her victim complex. She hired a public relations firm. I learned this from Sarah, who called me in tears after overhearing a phone conversation between her parents. Grandma, Mom hired some company to help her manage her image crisis. She's talking about you like you're some kind of problem that needs to be solved instead of her mother, who she hurt. I'm not surprised, sweetheart. She wants to do more interviews, maybe write an op-ed for the newspaper about family reconciliation and the dangers of social media pile-ons. She's trying to make herself look like the victim of internet bullying. The audacity was breathtaking. Rebecca was going to position herself as the victim of an online mob rather than a daughter who'd abandoned her homeless mother. What are you going to do, Grandma? Nothing. Nothing. Sometimes the best response to someone digging their own grave is to hand them a bigger shovel. The op-ed appeared in the local newspaper the following Sunday. It was titled, When Family Disputes Go Public, A Daughter's Plea for Understanding. Dorothy read it aloud to me over coffee, her voice dripping with sarcasm. In today's social media age, family disagreements can quickly spiral out of control. What begins as a private matter between relatives can become a public spectacle that damages everyone involved. I know this firsthand, as my family has been thrust into the spotlight due to a misunderstanding that has been blown far out of proportion. Misunderstanding, Dorothy snorted. Is that what we're calling abandonment now? The article continued with Rebecca's carefully crafted version of events. According to her, I had chosen to stay with Dorothy instead of accepting their generous offer of hotel assistance. She painted herself as a concerned daughter whose attempts at reconciliation had been rebuffed by a mother influenced by online supporters who encouraged her anger. She wrote about the painful experience of being vilified on social media and the unfair pressure her children were under due to the public nature of our dispute. She called for compassion and understanding while subtly implying that I was being manipulated by strangers on the internet. The piece was a masterclass in manipulation, painting Rebecca as a victim while never directly attacking me. She came across as reasonable, hurt, and misunderstood. It might have worked, too, if she hadn't made one crucial mistake. At the end of the article, Rebecca included what she probably thought was a touching anecdote about our relationship. I remember when my mother taught me to ride a bike in our old neighborhood. She ran alongside me, holding the seat, promising she wouldn't let go. When I finally looked back and realized she had let go several steps earlier, I was riding on my own. That's what good mothers do. They give their children the confidence to succeed independently. I learned that lesson well, perhaps too well. Now it seems my mother needs me to hold on again, but I'm struggling to find the balance between helping and enabling, between family loyalty and family boundaries. The metaphor was supposed to make her sound wise and conflicted. Instead, it revealed everything wrong with her thinking. Dorothy looked up from the paper with disgust. Did she just compare leaving you homeless to teaching you to ride a bike? I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The comparison was so tone-deaf, so completely missing the point, that it was almost funny. She thinks she was helping me by forcing me to be independent. By suggesting you stay in a shelter? By teaching me to ride the bike of homelessness, apparently. The public reaction to the op-ed was swift and brutal. The newspaper's website crashed from all the traffic as people flocked to the comments section to express their outrage. Did she seriously just compare abandoning her homeless mother to teaching a kid to ride a bike? This woman has no shame. Family boundaries? The boundary was letting your mother sleep in your house versus letting her sleep in a shelter. Pretty clear which side of that boundary a decent person should be on. This is the most tone-deaf thing I've ever read. She's literally saying she abandoned her mother for her mother's own good. I hope my children never help me the way this woman helped her mother. Local radio stations picked up the story. Talk show hosts had a field day dissecting Rebecca's bicycle metaphor. A popular parenting podcast devoted an entire episode to discussing when family boundaries become family abandonment. But the most devastating response came from an unexpected source, Dr. Patricia Williams, a family therapist who'd been following our story.
Dr.
Williams wrote her own op-ed, published the same week, titled Gaslighting, Manipulation, and the Bicycle Metaphor, When Children Abandon Elderly Parents. Rebecca Smith's recent op-ed is a textbook example of how adult children rationalize elder abandonment, Dr. Williams wrote. Her bicycle metaphor is particularly telling. She's reframing her failure to help her homeless mother as a lesson in independence. This is classic gaslighting behavior, where the abuser reframes their harmful actions as being for the victim's own good. Dr. Williams went on to analyze Rebecca's language, pointing out the manipulation tactics embedded in nearly every paragraph. Notice how she never actually takes responsibility for her actions. She uses passive language, misunderstanding, family disputes, public spectacle, to describe a situation where she actively chose to turn away her homeless mother. She positions herself as the victim of social media pile-ons, rather than acknowledging that people are responding to her behavior, not to some unfair characterization of it. The article concluded with a devastating assessment. When adult children abandon elderly parents, they often rationalize their behavior by claiming they're teaching independence or maintaining boundaries. But there's a difference between healthy boundaries and cruelty. Ms. Smith's own children seem to understand this distinction, even if she doesn't. The psychological analysis went viral. Rebecca wasn't just being criticized for her actions anymore. She was being used as a case study in narcissistic behavior and elder abuse. Her phone started ringing with interview requests, but not the sympathetic kind she'd hoped for. News programs wanted to bring on Dr. Williams to discuss Rebecca's op-ed as an example of how abusers justify their behavior. Rebecca called me in a panic. "Mom, you have to make this stop. That therapist is calling me a narcissist and an elder abuser. This is defamation." "Is it?" Defamation means false statements. Was anything she said false? She's analyzing me based on one newspaper article. An article where you compared abandoning me to teaching someone to ride a bike. What did you expect people to think? I was trying to explain my perspective. And you did. You explained that you think leaving your homeless mother to fend for herself was actually a favor to her. That's not what I meant. Then you're a terrible writer, because that's exactly what you wrote. Rebecca was spiraling. The PR firm she'd hired was probably regretting taking her on. Every attempt to rehabilitate her image only made her look worse. "I want to sue that therapist." "Good luck with that. She's analyzing your public statements. That's protected speech." "Then I'll sue the newspaper for publishing her article." "Also protected speech. There has to be something I can do." "There is. You can stop making it worse." "How am I making it worse?" by refusing to admit you were wrong, by trying to spin this instead of taking responsibility, by hiring PR firms instead of examining your conscience. I did take responsibility. I apologize. You made excuses. There's a difference. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore. So, this is permanent? You're never going to forgive me? I've forgiven you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. And it doesn't mean putting myself in a position to be hurt the same way again. But we're family. No, Rebecca. We share DNA. Family is something different. Family shows up when you need them. Family doesn't suggest you stay in a shelter when you're homeless. Family doesn't hire PR firms to spin their abandonment of you. So what happens now? Now you live with the consequences of your choices. Just like I had to live with the consequences of yours. After I hung up, Dorothy looked at me with concern. How are you doing with all this, honey? Really? Because this has to be hard, watching your daughter self-destruct like this. It would be hard if I still thought of her as my daughter. But she stopped being my daughter the night she hung up on me when I begged for help. Everything since then has just been watching a stranger get what she deserves. It was true. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped seeing Rebecca as my child and started seeing her as someone who had hurt me. The protective instincts that had guided me for her entire life had simply switched off. Maybe that made me cold. Maybe it made me heartless. But when someone shows you they don't value you, eventually you stop valuing them. Rebecca was about to learn that lesson the hard way. 2 months after establishing the Second Family Foundation, I received my first official case. It came through Dr. Patricia Williams, the therapist who'd written the op-ed analyzing Rebecca's behavior. Mrs. Smith, I have a patient I think you should meet. Her name is Eleanor Martinez. She's 74, and her situation is heartbreakingly similar to yours. Eleanor's story was almost identical to mine, except worse. Her house hadn't burned down. Her son had convinced her to sell it and move in with him and his wife. Once they had control of her $150,000 from the house sale, they decided she was too much work and moved her into a substandard nursing home. The facility is barely legal, Dr. Williams explained. It's one of those places that warehouses seniors whose families want them out of sight. Eleanor's son visits maybe once a month, and only to ask about her remaining money. I drove to Sunset Manor Nursing Home with Dorothy the next day. The name was misleading. There was nothing Sunset beautiful about this place. The building was run down, the smell was overwhelming, and the staff looked overworked and underpaid. Eleanor Martinez was sitting in a wheelchair by a window, staring out at a parking lot. She was tiny, maybe 90 pounds, with silver hair and eyes that held the same defeated look I'd had the night of the fire. Mrs. Martinez? I'm Olivia Smith from the Second Family Foundation. She looked up at me with confusion. I'm sorry, I don't think I know you. You don't. But I know what it's like to be abandoned by your children when you need them most. Something flickered in her eyes. Hope, maybe, or just curiosity. I sat down next to her and told her my story. About the fire, about Rebecca's rejection, about the fundraising campaign, about building a new life from the ashes of the old one. Your son took your house money and put you here, I said gently. How long has it been since you've had a choice about where you live or how you spend your days? Tears started flowing down her cheeks. 2 years. I haven't had a real home in 2 years. Would you like one? I don't have any money left. Miguel, my son, he controls everything now. Eleanor, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. If you could live anywhere you wanted, where would it be? She was quiet for a long moment. I used to live in a little blue house on Cherry Street. I had a garden, and I could see the mountains from my kitchen window. I loved that house. What if I told you that you could have a house like that again, with a garden and a mountain view, and the freedom to live however you want? That's impossible. Is it? Eleanor, I have money. A lot of money. And I've decided to use it to help people like us. People whose families forgot that love is supposed to be unconditional. I explained the foundation, how it worked, and what I could offer her. A small house of her own, a monthly stipend for living expenses, and most importantly, complete independence from her son. But what about Miguel? He has power of attorney. Power of attorney doesn't mean ownership. You're competent, you're capable of making your own decisions, and you have the right to live where you choose. I have excellent lawyers who can help us make sure you get the independence you deserve. Eleanor looked at me like I was offering her the moon. You would do that? For someone you don't even know? Eleanor, 3 months ago, complete strangers donated $2 million to help me rebuild my life. They did it because they recognized that family isn't about blood, it's about caring. Now I'm in a position to pay that kindness forward. Within a week, my lawyers had helped Eleanor assert her rights and move out of Sunset Manor. I purchased a small blue house for her, not on Cherry Street, but close enough, with a garden plot and a view of the mountains. Eleanor cried when she saw it. It's perfect, she whispered. It's exactly like my old house. It's your house now, Eleanor. No one can take it away from you. The local news covered Eleanor's story, positioning it as the first official case of the Second Family Foundation. The reporter interviewed both of us in Eleanor's new kitchen. Mrs. Martinez, how does it feel to have your independence back? Like I'm alive again, Eleanor said, her eyes bright with tears.
For 2 years, I felt like I was just waiting to die.
Now I feel like I'm living again. And, Mrs. Smith, what drove you to help Eleanor? Eleanor and I are part of a sadly growing group, seniors who've been abandoned or mistreated by their adult children. But we're also proof that family isn't about biology. It's about showing up for each other when it matters. Your own daughter has been notably absent from your foundation's work. My daughter is welcome to volunteer or donate anytime she chooses. But she'll be treated like any other volunteer. She won't get special consideration just because we share DNA. The story was picked up nationally. The image of Eleanor in her new kitchen, smiling for the first time in years, was powerful. But what really captured people's attention was the contrast between how I was helping a stranger and how my own daughter had treated me. The foundation's phone started ringing. Seniors from across the country were calling to share their stories of family abandonment, financial abuse, and isolation. Adult children were calling to donate money and volunteer time, many of them saying they were ashamed of how other people's children had behaved. But the call that surprised me most came from Jake. Grandma, I want to volunteer for the foundation. Sweetheart, that's wonderful, but you're only 16. I know, but I want to help. I've been thinking about what you're doing, about Eleanor and other people like you, and I want to be part of something good. What does your mother think about this? I don't care what Mom thinks. She lost the right to have opinions about charity work when she turned away her own mother. Jake's words were harsh, but they reflected a growing reality. My grandchildren were choosing sides, and they weren't choosing Rebecca's side. Sarah called the next day with a similar request. Grandma, I want to help with the foundation's social media and website. I'm good at that stuff, and I want to help spread the word about what you're doing. Sarah, this might create more problems with your mother. Good. Maybe it'll help her realize how wrong she was. Within a month, both of my grandchildren were actively involved with the foundation. Jake visited Eleanor twice a week, helping her with groceries and yard work. Sarah created a powerful social media presence for the foundation, sharing stories of seniors who'd been helped and highlighting the need for more support. Rebecca was furious. Mom, you're turning my children against me. I'm not turning them against anything. They're choosing to help people who've been abandoned by their families. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why. You're using them to get back at me. I'm not using anyone. Jake and Sarah are old enough to make their own decisions about right and wrong. They've decided they want to help vulnerable seniors. That's something to be proud of, not angry about. But they're doing it to spite me. Are they? Or are they doing it because they believe it's the right thing to do? This is manipulation. What's manipulative about helping elderly people who've been abandoned by their families? Rebecca couldn't answer that because there was no good answer. How do you argue against helping vulnerable seniors without sounding heartless? The foundation's second case came from Sarah. She'd been managing the foundation's email and found a message that broke her heart. "Grandma, you need to read this," she said, forwarding me an email from a woman named Patricia Chun, no relation to my neighbor who'd started the GoFundMe. Patricia's story was different, but equally heartbreaking. She was 71 and had been living with her daughter's family for 3 years since her husband died. She contributed $800 a month from her Social Security to household expenses and provided free childcare for her 2 teenage grandchildren. But her daughter had recently remarried, and the new husband wanted Patricia out. "He says I'm cramping their style as newlyweds," Patricia wrote. "My daughter is choosing him over me. She's given me 30 days to find somewhere else to live, but I can't afford my own place on Social Security alone. I'm scared I'm going to end up homeless." I called Patricia that evening. Her voice was shaky and defeated. "Mrs. Chun, I want you to know that you have options. You don't have to accept being thrown out of your home. But I don't have anywhere else to go. And my daughter says if I don't leave willingly, she'll make things very unpleasant for me." "What does that mean?" "She controls my prescription medications. She drives me to all my doctor appointments. She says if I don't cooperate, she might not be available to help with those things anymore." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just abandonment, it was elder abuse. "Patricia, I want you to pack a bag with your most important belongings. I'm going to send someone to pick you up today." "Today? But I don't have anywhere." "Yes, you do. You have me." I arranged for Patricia to stay in a hotel temporarily while we found her a permanent solution. My lawyers helped her file an elder abuse complaint against her daughter and establish her right to access her own medications and medical care. Within 2 weeks, Patricia was living in a small apartment near Eleanor's house. The two women quickly became friends, supporting each other through their shared experience of family betrayal. The local news covered Patricia's story too, and this time, the reporter was more direct about the pattern she was seeing. "Mrs. Smith, this is your second case in 2 months. Both involve seniors being mistreated by their adult children. Is this more common than people realize?" "Much more common. For every Eleanor and Patricia who reach out for help, there are dozens who suffer in silence because they're ashamed or afraid. Adult children abandoning or abusing elderly parents is an epidemic, and it's one we don't talk about because it makes people uncomfortable. What would you say to adult children who are watching this?" I looked directly into the camera, thinking about Rebecca. "I'd say that being an adult child is a privilege, not a burden. Your parents gave you life, raised you, sacrificed for you. When they need help, that's your chance to show what kind of person they raised. Some of you will rise to the occasion. Others will find excuses. But remember, your children are watching how you treat your parents. And someday, they'll treat you the same way." The interview went viral again. #AdultChildrenAreWatching became a trending topic on social media. People shared stories about how their parents had treated their grandparents, expressing worry about what that meant for their own future care. But more importantly, the foundation started receiving donations from a new source: adult children who were horrified by the stories they were hearing and wanted to help. "I read about Eleanor and Patricia, and I'm ashamed that there are children out there treating their parents this way," one donor wrote. "My mother is 78, and I can't imagine abandoning her. Please use this money to help more seniors who deserve better." The foundation grew rapidly. Within 3 months, We'd helped 8 seniors escape abusive or neglectful family situations. We'd purchased 3 small homes, paid for numerous apartment deposits, and provided ongoing support to dozens of elderly people who'd been abandoned by their families. More importantly, we'd started a conversation. News outlets across the country were reporting on elder abandonment. Social workers were sharing resources. Adult children were examining their own behavior and making changes. Rebecca, meanwhile, was watching her mother help complete strangers while refusing to reconcile with her own daughter. The contrast was becoming impossible to ignore, and people weren't shy about pointing it out. "Isn't it ironic?" one commenter wrote on the Foundation's Facebook page, "that Mrs. Smith is helping seniors whose children abandoned them, while her own daughter who abandoned her is probably watching this and feeling sorry for herself." Rebecca was feeling more than sorry for herself. She was feeling desperate, because every success of the Foundation was a reminder of her failure as a daughter. Every senior I helped was an indictment of her character. And desperate people make dangerous decisions. Rebecca's final attempt to regain control came in the form of a lawsuit. 6 months after I'd established the Foundation, she filed a legal challenge claiming that I was mentally incompetent and that my charitable giving was evidence of diminished capacity and poor judgment. The lawsuit alleged that I was being unduly influenced by Dorothy and manipulated by the people who donated to my GoFundMe campaign. It claimed that giving away large sums of money to strangers was proof that I could manage my own affairs and that Rebecca should be appointed as my conservator. I learned about the lawsuit when a process server appeared at Dorothy's door with papers. My hands were shaking as I read the legal documents that essentially accused me of being crazy. "She's trying to have me declared incompetent," I told Dorothy. "On what grounds?" "She says that helping elderly people proves I'm mentally unstable." Dorothy's face turned red with rage. "That little witch. She can't get her hands on your money through guilt or manipulation, so now she's trying to steal it legally." The lawsuit was front-page news in our local paper. Daughter claims mother mentally incompetent over charitable giving. The story outlined Rebecca's claims, including quotes from her legal filing that were breathtaking in their audacity. Mrs. Smith's recent behavior shows a pattern of impaired judgment and susceptibility to outside influence. Her decision to give away large sums of money to strangers, while refusing to maintain normal family relationships, suggests cognitive decline or mental illness. The filing also claimed that I was hoarding animosity and unable to process forgiveness in a healthy way, as if forgiveness was something I owed Rebecca regardless of her behavior. But Rebecca had made a critical error. In trying to paint my charitable work as evidence of mental illness, she was attacking something that made me look sympathetic while making herself look greedy. The public reaction was swift and brutal. She abandoned her homeless mother, and now she's trying to steal the money people donated to help her? This is disgusting. Imagine being so greedy that you sue your own mother for helping other people. This woman has no shame. Her mother is doing God's work, and she wants to stop it so she can get her hands on the money. Dr. Patricia Williams, the therapist who'd become an unofficial expert on our case, was interviewed about the lawsuit on national television. "This is a classic example of how abusive adult children escalate when they lose control," she explained. "Rebecca Smith has tried manipulation, public relations campaigns, and family pressure. Now she's resorting to legal abuse, using the court system to continue her mistreatment of her mother." Is there any validity to her claims about mental incompetence? Absolutely not. Mrs. Smith has demonstrated remarkable clarity and purpose. She's built a successful charitable organization, helped multiple people, and shown excellent judgment in how she's managed her resources. The only person showing poor judgment here is the daughter who's suing her. The interview was damaging enough, but what came next was devastating for Rebecca. Sarah and Jake held their own press conference. Standing outside the courthouse where Rebecca had filed her lawsuit, My 18-year-old granddaughter faced the cameras with a maturity that broke my heart. "My grandmother is not mentally incompetent," Sarah said, her voice steady and strong. "She's the sanest person I know. She's using her money to help people who've been hurt the same way she was hurt. That's not mental illness, that's justice." Jake, now 17 and tall like his grandfather, stood beside his sister with quiet dignity. "My mom abandoned my grandmother when her house burned down," he said simply. "Now Grandma is helping other people whose families abandoned them. And my mom thinks that makes Grandma crazy? The only crazy thing here is this lawsuit." The reporter asked the question everyone was thinking. "What do you think about your mother suing your grandmother?" Sarah's answer was devastating. "I think my mother is showing the world exactly who she is. And I'm ashamed to be related to her." Jake nodded in agreement. "Grandma always taught us that your actions show your character. Mom's actions are showing her character perfectly." The press conference went viral. Hashtag "A shame of my mother" trended on social media. People couldn't believe that children were publicly denouncing their own mother, but they also couldn't argue with Sarah and Jake's logic. Rebecca's lawsuit had backfired spectacularly. Instead of making me look unstable, it made her look like a greedy, abusive daughter who was willing to use the legal system to continue tormenting her mother. But the lawsuit also had an unintended consequence. It brought more attention to the foundation's work. Donations poured in from people who were outraged by Rebecca's legal challenge. Volunteers offered their services. Lawyers offered to work pro bono to defend against the lawsuit. Most importantly, more seniors reached out for help. "I saw the news about your daughter suing you," one caller said. "I'm in a similar situation with my son, and I thought I was alone. But seeing how you're fighting back gives me hope." The foundation's caseload doubled within a week of Rebecca filing her lawsuit. The media coverage had shown vulnerable seniors that there were options beyond suffering in silence. My legal team, led by a brilliant attorney named Margaret Foster, was confident about defeating the lawsuit. "Mrs. Smith, your daughter has no case," Margaret assured me. "You've been evaluated by multiple medical professionals as part of the foundation's setup. You're demonstrably competent, rational, and generous. No judge is going to declare someone incompetent for helping elderly people." "What about her claims of undue influence?" "Laughable. You're helping strangers, not enriching people who are influencing you. If anything, the lawsuit itself shows who's really trying to exert undue influence." The hearing was scheduled for 2 months later. In the meantime, Rebecca's behavior became increasingly erratic. She started showing up at foundation events, trying to disrupt our work. She appeared at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for Eleanor's house, shouting questions at me in front of reporters. "Mom, how can you help strangers when you won't help your own family?" I looked at her calmly and said, "I help people who deserve help. That's the difference between charity and enabling." She tried to crash Patricia's apartment warming party, demanding to know why I was wasting money on strangers instead of investing in my real family. Patricia, all 71 years of her, stepped between Rebecca and me. "Young lady, your mother is an angel. She saved my life when my own daughter threw me away. If you can't see what a treasure you have in her, that's your loss, not hers." Rebecca's public disruptions only made her look worse. People started recording her outbursts and posting them online. She became a viral symbol of entitled, abusive adult children. The hearing finally arrived on a gray Tuesday morning in March. The courthouse was packed with supporters, foundation volunteers, seniors we'd helped, donors, and media. Rebecca sat alone at the plaintiff's table except for her lawyer, who looked like he regretted taking the case. Margaret Foster destroyed Rebecca's arguments methodically and professionally. "Your Honor, the plaintiff claims that Mrs. Smith is mentally incompetent because she chooses to help vulnerable seniors rather than reconcile with the daughter who abandoned her when she was homeless. This is not mental illness. This is moral clarity. She presented evidence of my competence, medical evaluations, financial records showing careful management of resources, testimonials from the people I'd helped, and documentation of the Foundation's professional operations. Mrs. Smith has helped 8 seniors escape abusive family situations. She's provided housing, financial support, and dignity to people who had been discarded by their own children. This is not the behavior of someone with diminished capacity. This is the behavior of someone with exceptional character. When Rebecca took the stand to testify, Margaret's cross-examination was brutal but fair. Ms. Smith, when your mother's house burned down, where did you suggest she stay? I offered to help her find a hotel. That's not what I asked. Where did you suggest she stay? Rebecca looked uncomfortable. I mentioned that there might be shelters available. You suggested your 68-year-old mother stay in a homeless shelter rather than in your 4-bedroom house. Our situation was complicated. How is it complicated? We had a lot going on with the kids' activities and my husband's work. So you prioritized your convenience over your mother's homelessness? That's not how I would characterize it. How would you characterize suggesting that your homeless mother stay in a shelter? Rebecca had no good answer. Margaret continued, Ms. Smith, you claim your mother is mentally incompetent. Has she been diagnosed with any cognitive disorders? Not specifically, but has any medical professional expressed concern about her mental capacity?
No.
Has she made any financial decisions that harmed her own interests? She's giving away money that could benefit her family. That wasn't my question. Has she made any decisions that harm her own interests? I suppose not. In fact, she's used her resources to create a stable living situation for herself, establish a successful charitable organization, and help multiple people in need. Those sound like the actions of someone with excellent judgment, don't they? I wouldn't say excellent. What would you say? Rebecca was trapped. Any criticism of my judgment would make her look petty and greedy. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. This court finds no evidence whatsoever of mental incompetence or diminished capacity. Mrs. Smith has demonstrated exceptional judgment, compassion, and fiscal responsibility. Her decision to help vulnerable seniors is admirable, not pathological. This lawsuit appears to be motivated by the plaintiff's desire to control her mother's finances rather than by any genuine concern for her mother's welfare. The case is dismissed, and the court strongly discourages any future frivolous legal challenges. The courtroom erupted in applause. Rebecca sat frozen as people around her celebrated her defeat. Outside the courthouse, I gave a brief statement to the media. Today's ruling confirms what I already knew. Helping people is not a mental illness. Being generous is not incompetence. And standing up to family members who mistreat you is not pathological, it's necessary. A reporter asked if I had anything to say to Rebecca. I hope she gets the help she needs to understand why she thought suing her own mother was appropriate. But that's her journey to take. Mine is focused on helping people who deserve it. Rebecca's lawsuit had been her final, desperate attempt to regain control over me and my money. It had failed spectacularly, and in the process, it had shown the world exactly who she really was. The failed lawsuit marked the end of Rebecca's attempts to manipulate or control me. She'd tried guilt, manipulation, public relations, family pressure, and legal action. None of it had worked. Now she would have to live with the consequences of her choices, while I continued building a life focused on people who actually deserved my love and attention. The victory felt complete, but the best was yet to come. In the year following Rebecca's failed lawsuit, the Second Family Foundation became a national phenomenon. What had started as my personal response to family betrayal had grown into a movement that was changing how America talked about elder care and family responsibility. We'd helped over 50 seniors escape abusive or neglectful family situations. The foundation owned 12 small homes across 3 states, provided monthly stipends to 34 elderly people, and had a waiting list of over 200 seniors seeking help. More importantly, we'd inspired copycat organizations across the country. Adult children who were ashamed of how other people's children behaved were starting their own local foundations. The #RealFamily movement on social media highlighted stories of people who'd chosen their support systems rather than accepting mistreatment from blood relatives. I was invited to speak at conferences, universities, and policy forums. My TED Talk, When Blood Isn't Thicker Than Water, had over 3 million views. I'd been featured on the cover of AARP magazine under the headline "The Woman Who Redefined Family." But the moment that brought me the most satisfaction came when I received a call from the White House. "Mrs. Smith? This is Jennifer Martinez from the Office of Public Engagement. The President would like to invite you to be part of a roundtable discussion on elder care reform." I was going to the White House. Me, Olivia Smith, the woman Rebecca had suggested should stay in a homeless shelter. The roundtable was attended by policymakers, advocates, and other seniors who'd experienced family abandonment. When my turn came to speak, I looked directly into the camera that was broadcasting the event live. "Mr. President, members of Congress, fellow Americans, we have an epidemic of elder abandonment in this country. Adult children are walking away from their responsibilities to their parents, and we need to stop pretending this is acceptable." I shared statistics that my foundation had compiled. 1 in 4 seniors reported feeling abandoned or neglected by their adult children. Elder abuse by family members was increasing annually. Financial exploitation of elderly parents by their own children was at record levels. But we also need to stop telling seniors that they have to accept mistreatment just because it comes from family, I continued. Love without respect is just manipulation. Support with conditions isn't really support. And forgiveness without accountability just enables more abuse. The President asked me directly, "Mrs. Smith, what would you want Congress to do about this issue?" 3 things. First, expand legal protections for seniors against financial exploitation by family members. Second, provide more funding for alternatives to family-based elder care because sometimes family isn't safe. And third, stop incentivizing adult children to abandon their parents by making government programs the first resort instead of the last resort. The roundtable was covered extensively by national media. That evening, I appeared on 3 different news programs to discuss elder care policy. Rebecca, I learned later, watched every interview. She called me for the first time in 6 months that night. "Mom, I saw you at the White House today." "Did you? You looked important. Presidential." I felt important. It was a good day. "I'm proud of you." The words hung in the air between us. After everything she'd done, the abandonment, the manipulation, the lawsuit, she was telling me she was proud of me. "Are you, Rebecca?" "Yes, I really am. You've built something incredible." "I built it because you showed me that I couldn't depend on you." "I know. And I'm sorry for that." "What do you want, Rebecca?" "Nothing. I wanted you to know that I watched today, and I was proud to be your daughter." "You stopped being my daughter the night you hung up on me when I begged for help." "Mom, please don't say that." "It's true. You're not my daughter anymore. You're just someone I used to know who happens to share my DNA." "That's cruel." "Is it?" "Because I think what's cruel is abandoning your homeless mother and then suing her when she builds a new life without you." Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. "What would I have to do to be your daughter again?" The question surprised me. After everything, she was still looking for a transaction, a deal, a way to earn back what she'd thrown away. "Nothing," I said finally. "Nothing. There's nothing you can do, Rebecca. You revealed who you really are when you had the chance to help me and chose not to. Some betrayals can't be undone. Some trust can't be rebuilt. Some relationships can't be repaired." "So, this is forever? You're never going to forgive me?" "I have forgiven you. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just means I'm not angry anymore. But we could start over. No, we couldn't. Because I know now that your love comes with conditions. I know that your support depends on convenience. I know that when things get difficult, you'll choose yourself over me every time. That's not true anymore. How do I know that? Because you say so? Rebecca, you said a lot of things over the years. You said you loved me. You said you were grateful for everything I'd done for you. You said family came first. And then, when I needed you most, none of those words mattered. People change, Mom. Do they? Because you didn't reach out to me because you'd changed. You reached out because I succeeded without you. If the foundation had failed, if I'd ended up homeless and forgotten, would you be calling me now? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. That's what I thought. So, what happens now? Now you live your life, and I live mine. You go to work, take care of your family, pursue your interests. I'll continue helping people who deserve help. We'll both be fine. But we'll never have a relationship again? We never had a real relationship, Rebecca. We had a transaction. I gave you everything you needed, and you gave me the illusion of being loved. But when the test came, when I needed something from you, the transaction ended. That's a horrible way to think about family. It's an honest way to think about what we had. Real family doesn't abandon you when you're homeless. Real family doesn't suggest you stay in shelters. Real family doesn't sue you for helping other people. After I hung up, Dorothy asked me how I felt. Relieved, I said honestly. For the first time in 2 years, I feel like that chapter of my life is completely closed. Do you think she'll try to contact you again? Probably. But it doesn't matter. I know who she is now, and I know who I am. That's enough. The foundation continued to grow. We opened our first residential facility, a beautiful apartment complex designed specifically for seniors who'd been abandoned by their families. We called it Haven House, and it was always full. Sarah and Jake, now college-aged, became the foundation's youth ambassadors, speaking at schools about the importance of respecting elderly family members. They'd both chosen to attend colleges close to home so they could continue working with the foundation. We want to be part of Grandma's legacy, Sarah explained to a reporter. She's shown us what real family looks like. It's about showing up for people, not just sharing DNA. Jake added, our grandmother is helping change the world. We want to help her do it. On the 2nd anniversary of my house fire, I threw a party. Not a sad remembrance of what I'd lost, but a celebration of what I'd built from the ashes. The party was held at Haven House, with residents, volunteers, donors, and supporters. Eleanor Martinez, now 76 and thriving in her little blue house, gave a speech about how the foundation had given her a reason to live again. Patricia Chen, who'd become the foundation's volunteer coordinator, talked about finding a new family among the people who'd rescued her from her abusive daughter. Dr. Patricia Williams, who'd become a close friend and advisor, spoke about how my story had changed how she approached cases of family abandonment. Olivia Smith has shown us that victims don't have to stay victims, she told the crowd. Sometimes the best response to betrayal is to build something beautiful. As the evening wound down, I stood in the garden at Haven House, surrounded by people who'd chosen to be my family. These were people who showed up when I needed them, who supported the foundation's work, who understood that love is a verb, not just a feeling. A reporter from the local news approached me for a final interview. Mrs. Smith, 2 years ago, you lost everything in a fire and were abandoned by your own daughter. Now you're running a national foundation and have been to the White House. How do you feel about how far you've come? I looked around at the people gathered in the garden. Seniors who'd found safety and dignity through the foundation, volunteers who'd chosen to make elder care their mission, donors who'd turned their sympathy into action. I feel like I finally understand what family really means, I said. It's not about who shares your blood. It's about who shows up when you need them. It's about who stands by you when things get difficult. It's about who celebrates your successes and supports you through your failures. And your biological daughter? Any regrets about how that relationship ended? I thought about Rebecca, probably watching this interview from her beautiful house, still trying to figure out how to spin her abandonment of me into something acceptable. No regrets, I said firmly. Rebecca showed me who she really was when I needed her most. Believing her was the best decision I ever made. Any final thoughts for people who might be going through similar family situations? I looked directly into the camera, thinking about all the seniors out there who were being mistreated by their adult children, all the elderly people who thought they had to accept abuse because it came from family. Don't accept mistreatment just because it comes from relatives. You deserve better than conditional love and convenient support. And if your biological family fails you, don't be afraid to build a new one. Some of the best families are chosen, not born. As the reporter packed up her equipment, Dorothy came over and put her arm around me. Any second thoughts about the path you chose? I looked around at the life I'd built, the foundation that was changing lives, the people who'd become my real family, the purpose that got me up every morning excited to make a difference. None whatsoever. That night, as I went to bed in my beautiful new home, purchased with money donated by strangers who cared more about my well-being than my own daughter ever had, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. I'd started this journey as a victim. I was ending it as a victor. And Rebecca was learning what it meant to live with consequences that couldn't be managed, spun, or litigated away. The lesson was simple but profound. When you abandon someone, don't be surprised when they build a better life without you. 5 years after the fire that changed everything, I received an invitation that would mark the completion of my transformation from victim to victor. The National Association of Senior Services wanted to present me with their Lifetime Achievement Award for revolutionary contributions to elder care advocacy. The ceremony would be held at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., and the event would be broadcast nationally. I was 73 now, with silver hair that I wore proudly, and the kind of confidence that comes from knowing your worth. The frightened, broken woman who'd stood in a neighbor's driveway watching her life burn to ash was gone. In her place was someone who'd built an empire of compassion from the ashes of betrayal. The foundation, now operated in 12 states, had helped over 300 seniors escape family abuse and had inspired federal legislation strengthening protections for elderly Americans. I'd written a best-selling memoir called When Family Fails, Building Real Love from Broken Dreams. Harvard Business School taught a case study about the foundation's innovative approach to charitable work. But more than any professional achievement, I was proud of the family I'd built. Dorothy, now 75, was my closest friend and the foundation's board chair. Eleanor Martinez had become like a sister to me. Patricia Chun was the daughter I'd never really had in Rebecca. Sarah and Jake, now 23 and 21, were successful young adults who'd chosen to make elder advocacy their life's work. I had a family that was loyal, supportive, and genuine. Everything Rebecca had failed to be. A week before the Kennedy Center ceremony, Sarah came to visit me with news. "Grandma, I need to tell you something. Mom has been calling me." I wasn't surprised. Rebecca had made periodic attempts over the years to reconnect through the children, but Sarah and Jake had consistently maintained their boundaries. "What does she want?" "She wants to come to the award ceremony. She says she wants to support you and show the world that she's proud of what you've accomplished." I almost laughed. After 5 years of no contact, she wants to show up to my big moment and pretend to be a loving daughter? That's what I thought too. But Grandma, there's more. She's been telling people around town that she's going to DC for Mom's big night, and that she's so proud of how you overcame your anger and built something beautiful from tragedy. She's rewriting history again. Worse than that, she's positioning herself as the supportive daughter who stood by you through everything. She's telling people that she helped inspire the foundation by encouraging you to find your purpose. The audacity was breathtaking, but not surprising. Rebecca had spent 5 years watching me succeed while she dealt with the social and professional consequences of being known as the daughter who'd abandoned her homeless mother. Now she wanted to reinsert herself into my story as a hero rather than a villain. What did you tell her? I told her that if she showed up uninvited, I'd have security remove her. Jake feels the same way. I hugged Sarah tight. You don't have to protect me, sweetheart. Yes, I do. You've taught me that we get to choose who's allowed in our lives. Mom chose not to be in yours when you needed her. She doesn't get to choose to be in it now when it's convenient for her. The award ceremony was everything I could have dreamed of. The Kennedy Center was filled with advocates, policymakers, foundation supporters, and seniors whose lives had been changed by our work. The president sent a video message congratulating me on my work. Former recipients of the award praised the foundation's innovation and impact. But the moment that meant the most was when Eleanor Martinez, now 79 but still sharp as a tack, introduced me. 5 years ago, I was warehoused in a nursing home by a son who wanted my money, but not my presence. I felt invisible, forgotten, worthless. Then Olivia Smith walked into my life and reminded me that I mattered. She didn't just give me a house, she gave me back my dignity. She didn't just provide financial support, she gave me a family that actually cares about me. Tonight, we honor a woman who turned her own abandonment into a lifeline for hundreds of others. Ladies and gentlemen, the founder of the Second Family Foundation and proof that the best revenge is living beautifully, Olivia Smith. The standing ovation went on for nearly 5 minutes. As I walked to the podium, I saw the faces of people whose lives had been changed by the foundation. I saw Dorothy beaming with pride. I saw Sarah and Jake recording everything on their phones, tears streaming down their faces. And in the back of the auditorium, trying to blend into the crowd, I saw Rebecca. She'd come anyway, despite Sarah's warning. She was dressed elegantly, trying to look like she belonged, probably planning to tell people she was my daughter if anyone asked. The sight of her didn't make me angry anymore. It just made me sad for her. She was still trying to claim credit for a story she'd refused to be part of. But I had something to say that would make her presence irrelevant. 5 years ago, I began, my voice carrying clearly through the packed auditorium. I lost everything I thought mattered in a house fire. My home, my possessions, my sense of security, all gone in one night. But that fire also burned away illusions I'd been carrying for years. I paused, looking out at the audience. When I called my daughter that night, homeless and desperate, she suggested I try a homeless shelter rather than stay in her 4-bedroom house. That moment taught me something crucial. Family isn't about biology. It's about choice. It's about showing up. It's about loving someone enough to inconvenience yourself for their welfare. I could see Rebecca shifting uncomfortably in her seat. The people who donated to my GoFundMe were strangers who chose to care about an elderly woman they'd never met. The volunteers who helped build this foundation were people who chose to make elder care their mission. The seniors we serve have become my real family because we choose to support each other. The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. Tonight, I want to thank my real family. Dorothy Patterson, who opened her home to me when I had nowhere to go. I gestured to Dorothy, who stood and waved through her tears. Eleanor Martinez, who became my sister in survival. Eleanor stood and blew me a kiss. Patricia Chun, who became the daughter I always deserved. Patricia stood and put her hand over her heart. And most of all, my grandchildren Sarah and Jake, who chose love over convenience, justice over comfort, and integrity over family loyalty. Sarah and Jake stood together, and I could see the pride shining in their faces. These people taught me that real family is chosen, not assigned. Real love is demonstrated, not just declared. And real loyalty is earned, not demanded. I looked directly at Rebecca for the first time since I'd noticed her. To anyone watching who has been abandoned or mistreated by their biological family, I want you to know, you deserve better. You don't have to accept cruelty just because it comes from relatives. You have the right to build a family that actually values you. The applause was thunderous. People stood and cheered, many of them crying. The message was clear. Chosen families were just as valid as biological ones, and sometimes they were better. After the ceremony, there was a reception where people could meet me and learn more about the foundation. I spent an hour talking to donors, advocates, and seniors who wanted to share their own stories of family betrayal and chosen family triumph. Rebecca approached me during a quiet moment. "Mom, that was a beautiful speech." I turned to face her, noting how she looked older, more tired than when I'd last seen her. The stress of 5 years of social consequences had aged her. "What are you doing here, Rebecca? I wanted to see you receive this honor. I'm proud of what you've accomplished." "Are you? Or are you here to try to rehabilitate your image by being seen as the supportive daughter?" She flinched. "That's not fair. Isn't it? You've spent 5 years dealing with the consequences of abandoning me. Now you want to be photographed at my success, so you can tell people you were supportive." "I made mistakes. You made choices. Choices that showed me exactly who you are. Can't people change? Can they? Because I noticed you didn't reach out when I was struggling to build the foundation. You didn't contact me when I was working 18-hour days trying to help other abandoned seniors. You didn't call when I was featured in national media or when I testified before Congress. You only showed up tonight, to my biggest public moment, when being seen with me might benefit you." Rebecca's facade cracked slightly. "What do you want me to say? That I was wrong? Fine, I was wrong. That I'm sorry? I'm sorry. That I want another chance?
Ido.
What I want is for you to be honest about why you're really here. I told you. You're here because for 5 years, you've been known as the daughter who abandoned her homeless mother. Your real estate business has suffered. Your social circle has shrunk. People look at you differently. And tonight, you thought maybe you could start rebuilding your reputation by showing up to support me." She didn't deny it, which was all the confirmation I needed. "Rebecca, let me save you some time and effort. There is no going back. There is no redemption arc. There is no moment where I forgive you and we rebuild our relationship. That story ended the night you hung up on me when I begged for help. So, this is really forever? This is really forever. Even though I'm sorry? You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry for how it affected you. There's a difference." Tears started flowing down her cheeks. What kind of mother gives up on her child? The kind whose child gave up on her first. That's cruel.
No, Rebecca.
Cruel is what you did to me 5 years ago. This is just honest. I started to walk away, but she grabbed my arm. "Mom, please. I know I don't deserve it, but please give me another chance. I'll do anything." I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her desperate face. "Let go of me. Please."
Let go of me.
She released my arm, and I stepped back. "Rebecca, you had your chance. 23 years of chances, actually. You threw them all away for your convenience. Now you get to live with that choice." "But I love you." "No, you don't. You love the idea of having a mother who forgives you and makes you feel better about yourself. But you don't love me enough to have helped me when I was homeless. You don't love me enough to have supported me without conditions. You don't love me enough to accept that your actions have consequences." I looked around the reception at all the people who'd chosen to be part of my life, who'd shown up when it mattered, who'd proven their love through actions rather than words. I have all the love I need, Rebecca. I have all the family I need. I have all the support I need. and none of it comes from you." She stood there crying as I walked away, finally understanding that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. The next morning, Sarah showed me Rebecca's Facebook post from the night before. "Attended my mother's award ceremony at the Kennedy Center last night. So proud of everything she's accomplished, even though our relationship remains complicated. Family is complicated, but love endures. Hashtag proud daughter, hashtag Kennedy Center, hashtag family." The comments were brutal. Love endures? Where was this love when your mother was homeless? You have some nerve showing up to claim credit for her success after abandoning her. Complicated is one way to describe abandoning your homeless mother, I suppose. Your mother built an empire, helping people whose families abandoned them. The irony is thick. Even Rebecca's attempt to spin her attendance at my ceremony had backfired. People saw through her performance, just as they always had. That afternoon, I was back home, sitting in my beautiful garden with Dorothy and Eleanor, when Sarah and Jake arrived with champagne to celebrate the award. "Grandma, you were incredible last night," Sarah said, pouring champagne for everyone. "When you talked about choosing your family instead of accepting the one you were born with, there wasn't a dry eye in the house." "Your speech is already trending on social media," Jake added. "People are sharing clips and talking about how it's changing their perspective on family relationships." I raised my glass to toast with the people who'd chosen to be my family.
"To real families," I said.
"The ones we build with love, loyalty, and mutual respect." "To real families," they echoed. As we celebrated, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. 5 years ago, I'd been a broken woman standing in a driveway, watching my life burn while my daughter abandoned me to preserve her convenience. Now I was a national advocate who'd changed how America thought about elder care. I'd built a foundation that had helped hundreds of people. I'd inspired federal legislation. I'd proven that the best response to betrayal wasn't revenge. It was building something beautiful from the ashes. But most importantly, I'd learned to value myself enough to demand better from the people in my life. I'd stopped accepting crumbs and built a table where everyone was fed. Rebecca would spend the rest of her life dealing with the consequences of her choices. Her children didn't respect her. Her community knew what she'd done. Her mother had built a successful life without her, and she had no one to blame but herself. As for me, I was surrounded by people who'd chosen to love me, support me, and stand by me when it mattered. I was doing work that had purpose and meaning. I was living proof that sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born with. My revenge wasn't bitter or cruel. It was simply living well. It was showing the world that you don't have to accept mistreatment from anyone, even family. It was proving that love without respect is just manipulation, and support with conditions isn't really support at all. Rebecca had taught me that when someone shows you who they are, you should believe them. I'd learned that lesson well, and I'd built a beautiful life from that knowledge. The fire had taken everything I thought I valued, but from those ashes, I'd built something far more precious, a life filled with people who actually cared about me, work that mattered, and the unshakable knowledge that I deserved better than what I'd been accepting. That was my victory. Complete, final, and absolutely satisfying. And that's Olivia's incredible story of transformation and triumph. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up giving us the greatest gift, the knowledge that we deserve better. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to Her True Stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss our powerful tales of resilience and revenge. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own self-respect? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from our amazing community. Remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't hurting the people who hurt you. It's building a life so beautiful that their absence becomes irrelevant. Until next time, keep fighting for the love and respect you deserve.